Okay, welcome to this webinar about the untapped ways for attorneys and law students to find a legal job. And at the outset, I want to tell you that in terms of your job search, what stage of your career you are at, what I'm going to talk about today is the result of 25 plus years of getting tens of thousands, if not many more than that, positions through different companies I've had, not just BCG, but several different companies, and it encapsulates everything that I personally learned over that period of time. And regardless of what stage of your career, and like I said, again, you will get a lot out of this webinar because there are a ton of things that almost every attorney is missing in their job search, or just when they're casually looking for jobs, really whatever you're trying to do in terms of finding positions and being employed. And these secrets, by the way, that I'm going to tell you about, and they are secrets because the way to apply them is counterintuitive for a lot of people, can get you a position regardless of where you went to law school, regardless of whether you're employed or not, and regardless of if you've had long stretches of unemployment, regardless of how well you think you're doing or not doing. Regardless if there's a major slowdown in your practice area. This type thing I'm going to cover today will really give you a lot of insight into ways of finding a legal job. And what's nice about this particular webinar is I'm giving you the perspective of not just a legal recruiter, but of someone that's helped so many people get positions by understanding what I'm going to talk about today. Another nice thing about this webinar is that I'm going into quite a bit of depth with these things. If you're able to understand what I'm writing, I'm talking about, write things down. And then at the end of the webinar, if you have questions, you can go over those. You're really going to be in great shape. And just to give you a little bit of insight into this particular topic, a lot of what I'm going to cover is things that people don't necessarily think of when they think of just basic things like using a job site or networking or however that works. However, you may think whatever you're doing works, that there are different ways to actually make these things work. My belief, and it's a very firm belief, is that absolutely anybody can get a good job if they follow these methods, and without a doubt, because I've seen these work for just about every attorney and every situation that there is. And you can pretty much go to law school, graduate, or get into law school and take classes. This will help you get a position, and it works. And it's very important. One of the things I also want to say is that each of the things I'm going to talk about today works on their own. But if you're able to combine all seven of them, then it's basically incredible, because you will not only be able to get a job with one method, but you'll be able to get a job with the other. And if one's not working, you're not doing one correctly, the other will work too. People look for jobs in all sorts of different ways. These days, a lot of people will go on to sites like Indeed or LinkedIn and look for jobs. They won't get positions. And sometimes it's people that are newly graduated from law school that have a hard time getting a job. Sometimes it's people in law school. Sometimes it's people that have been out for a long period of time. And regardless of your situation, you may feel badly about yourself. You may feel like you've done something wrong. You may not understand why the market isn't necessarily accepting you, but you may have all sorts of feelings of inferiority, worthlessness, and things that you absolutely do not need to have if you know what you're doing. And unfortunately, what I'm going to talk about today, no one teaches this. No one will sit down and teach you this, because almost everyone you're dealing with has a vested interest in selling you something or some way of thought. I have none. My goal is to get you a position, and I do not care if you use me or one of my sites or however you do it. My job is just to get you a job. It's what I believe, and this is what I'm going to teach you today. There's a lot of very valuable lessons of what you're doing wrong and that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to share my experience. I'm going to show you what consistently works. I'm going to show you what consistently works in all economic climates, and I'm going to go into as much depth as I can without taking too much time to make sure that you understand exactly what I'm talking about and this stuff sinks. At the outset, I want to say that it's very impressive that you are actually on this webinar and taking the time to listen to it midweek, because this will pay dividends to you throughout your career. This stuff will sink in. and you will be in a position where you will always be able to get jobs, where you won't have to worry about supporting your family, about your self-esteem, about looking good to your parents and others, or being their classmates. You not have to worry about this if you understand what I'm talking about. And it's honestly not that hard to understand. This is very important stuff, because I come across people each day, and I see many of these people who are unable to get positions, who are unable to find positions when they're in unhappy positions. This is just very common. And as a matter of fact, I would estimate that a substantial portion of attorneys, at least 40% or 40%, are either underemployed or employed with places they don't want to stay around at. And they do not have to be doing this. They absolutely do not have to be doing this. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So here are some of the ways to find a position. As a general method, you have to be able to find, if you're looking for a job, you have to be able to find openings. You have to be able to do more than campus interviews. You need to do a lot of things. You need to network. You need to search job sites. You need to contact firms without openings. If you are out of law school, you should be contacting legal recruiters, and using these ways all taken together can help you find a job. So here are some misconceptions. A lot of people think they know how to find all the jobs. This is very common. They say that there are no jobs, and they search or they've applied to everything. Or sometimes people think that they're already doing everything they can. One of the craziest things I see is very common, but people are unemployed, and you ask them how much time they're putting in their job search, and they say, oh, I check listings on this site each morning or something, and I'm doing everything I can. Other people, most people are rarely doing what they should be doing. And if you're not working in a position you want, the odds are you're doing something wrong. When I was a law student, just for example, there were essentially 3 ways that people got jobs. They did on-campus interviews. They would send applications to this guide that was a printed guide. It's called the NALP guide, that contained only the largest and biggest firms in the cities where it advertised, where it had, and the biggest firms in the cities that employers advertised, and that was it. Or people tried to do networking. And these 3 methods honestly will never find you all the positions there are. There's online list of employers, there's recruiters, there's social media sites, there's all these different ways of finding positions. And most attorneys and law students are not effectively using all these methods. And you absolutely cannot ever find out where all the jobs are. A lot of people are devoted to one job site. It can be Indeed, or sometimes they use LinkedIn, and they think that they understand the job market, and they don't. But you really have to question everything you're doing in your job search. And if you're not, then you're going to be unhappy. There's all these different ways to apply to find job openings, and there's so many people that aren't working in the jobs they want. And so I'm going to talk to you right now just about this job method. So the first one that's extremely effective, that job sites won't tell you to do, that recruiters won't tell you to do, that many times whatever other methods you're choosing to do won't tell you to do, is networking. And networking is a very high priority and something that you should be doing. It will expose you to legal positions you never knew existed. A great deal of the hiring takes place when people are hiring people from or hired people based on others' recommendation. And honestly, if someone knows you, that you suddenly rise to the top of everything. If you're recommended by someone knows that you rise to the top. I had a point in my career where all the recruiters in our company, which was quite a few, had all been someone that was recommended by someone else. And that works. It's very helpful when that happens. If someone's recommended, then you're more likely to trust them. And a lot of people have prejudice against networking. This is not something that I did when I was looking for jobs. A lot of people are prejudiced. I used to think that I didn't want to own anything. I didn't want to signal weakness. I wanted to act like I could get jobs on my own. Maybe not trustworthy people. I thought I was aware of my weaknesses, and others would be as well. And that I'd had bad networking experiences early on, and it just didn't work. For example, I tried to get a position in General Motors from Detroit early in my career in the summer. And my friend and I were good friends with the son of one of the top 5 executives. I wasn't as close to him as my friend was. And so when I tried to get a position in the company, I didn't get one, even though I had much better academic and all sorts of qualifications. Left a bad taste in my mouth. And then I was trying to get a job with a major law firm in Detroit one summer. It might have been my second summer in law school. And I grew up in Detroit, and my mom knew a partner there, and she offered to help me and didn't get me the position. I didn't know why, but I got interviews with every other law firm in Detroit. But that one, I thought networking didn't work. And then girlfriend also, and when I was in law school, had a friend whose dad was a very influential partner at a big firm. I tried to tell him I was interested in the job, and the same thing. He rejected me. So I thought maybe network doesn't work. And I think a lot of people have very bad experiences with networking. And you may have had bad experiences too, where they haven't worked. That was one method of getting a position that I stopped using early in my career because I didn't think it would work. And so I started using other methods. And that was probably the dumbest thing that I ever could have done, because actually networking does work. And that it's very, very effective. And when it didn't work for me, I started eventually, as I got older, I would use job sites, job boards, legal newspapers used to have positions in them. Employers would advertise in printed legal newspapers. I would use that. And then as I saw success doing that, which actually had more to do with my qualifications than actually the fact that the networking didn't work, I saw that networking was quite time consuming and tedious. And because I wasn't getting instant rewards from this, that I got from other job search methods, I dropped it. And applying jobs from job sites and recruiters did give me very quick results. And networking requires time. Anybody that's aware of what it takes to network, and you have to be able to talk to people, you have to be able to get to know people, and you need to spend time doing it. And when you network, what's one of the negative drawbacks is that you're telling people in your circle that you're not happy or open to something else. And so sometimes if you have an image to uphold, that's going to potentially, you won't feel good. You'll feel like there's weakness or something. This is something that is common with a lot of attorneys. Attorneys do not want to feel weak before their peers. They don't want to transmit the idea that they might be weak to others. And so when you share information in this way, your friends and others may talk about it when you're not around. Your employer could find out if you're not happy. Some people think if they're networking, people talk. And if your friends and others know you're looking for a job, they may think negatively of you. And in my case, had a network effect, it could have really been something that worked very well. But at the time, especially when I was a young law student, I was making conclusions about networking that didn't make sense because of very effective. So I'm going to tell you some of the reasons that I actually like networking is one of the best ways to find any jobs. I think it's among the most effective. As I said, it's because when someone recommends you, you immediately get the attention of other people, and that attention will enable you to be, think about networking. Humans are essentially very paranoid people. They don't want to, and it's because we're all been in the past, we're tribal, meaning we would have tribes and be very careful about admitting other people into tribes. So the humans traditionally lived in hunter-gatherer societies, and the tribe size was limited based on the number of people that they believed they could feed, and just a bunch of things that kept them that size. And so they were very cautious about letting other people in their size, because if they let other people into their tribe, that would create a situation where that person could be someone that undermined the tribe or let enemies come and kill them or whatever. So people are very nervous about bringing in people. And so a lot of times they will only bring in people, or primarily bring in people that they trust or is recommended by someone else. And as I told you earlier, in BCG, when I hired recruiters, when the company was young, that's exactly what I did. I was concerned about people stealing data about jobs and contact data of firms. I had all sorts of concerns. And so I would be much more likely to hire people that was working to me than I was to hire people that just applied to jobs. And this is exactly how employers are. If you're recommended by someone or someone knows someone, they're going to look at you. It's how admission into highly selective employers work. It's just very helpful. And one of the reasons is if you have social connections with people and you help people do things, these social connections are interested in helping you. And because it makes them feel good. And then employers to hire candidates who their network of people that recommends. It's just much easier because if they hire people that are recommended in that way, there's no threat. They automatically have, the person has someone that they trust recommending them as opposed to just an application. And people would much prefer to hire someone that they trust, who's more likely to be trustworthy and stick around and not undermine the employer than someone that just comes in off the street. It's very important to them. Employers even to the extent that employers will trust people more that are out of the same cities or neighborhoods or schools or religions or all these types of things. I mean, they'll trust or members of groups or political parties. All these things are important to employers. And that's a form of just saying my network is nothing but Democrats, or my network is nothing but Republicans, or my network is nothing but independents, or and then the firms like that. All these things are signals that someone is like someone. And so we rely on networking. It's very important for you to get a job. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to hear a lot about this from a lot of different people that are competing to get you a job in the marketplace. It's very important. Just lots and lots of things come through recommendations. And in my career, I've hired just countless people. I've hired attorneys, I've hired secretaries, I've hired law clerks, accountants. And if someone's recommended, it's a very powerful thing. Interviewers may want to demonstrate their social status to the person who recommended them. The person interviewing you may owe someone a favor. So a lot of times an employer may owe a favor to someone that's recommending someone and will help them that way. That can help. Sometimes you just don't know. And so it's very important. And if an employer is speaking to multiple people for the same job, this trust level of having some sort of network way that you've networked into the job carries a lot more weight. Arguably, it carries even more weight than someone that may be recommended to the firm based on where someone that's not recommended to the firm has better qualifications. It's that important. It's very important. And it's actually much harder to network into a position than to apply for a job through jobs. If you apply to a job through a job site, all you're doing is clicking on a position and applying to it. And then when the employer contacts you, you'll maybe see what the job's all about and not even go on the interview, or just ghost the employer when you find out who they are, or you'll show up for the interview and you won't be a good fit and you won't have any incentive to do a good job in the interview. Some employers, when they just hire people or interview people off of job sites, they get burned a lot. Sometimes if it's a giant AmLaw 100 law firm or something, the person knows all about it. If it's a smaller firm or not the largest firm or just a firm in a practice area, the firm just doesn't know what's going to happen and they don't like it. It makes them feel badly when people aren't interested in them. And we have this happen at BCG. We send people jobs to review and approve. And we give them a link to the firm website, and we give them as much information as we can about the income of the job, give them information about the people that we'll be talking to. And they will say no. They will just say, no, I'm not interested in going out. And that makes us look bad to employers. And so employers are constantly trying to see who's going to be willing to talk to them, who's going to be willing to work there. And if you're recommended, that just breaks down all these barriers right away. And they're far more likely to have you get a position. You can network your way into jobs that you're not even qualified for if you do it correctly. It's absolutely astonishing what can be accomplished by networking. Networking, by the way, is what enables attorneys to develop books of business, because they network with people that need work. And when the work comes, then they're there. So networking, by the way, is one of the most important things that any attorney can do, not only to get a job, but to also get business. This is something that everyone should understand. And by the way, when you get hired by someone that you've networked into the job, the reason that's so awesome is because that employer's credibility is on the line too. So if you are recommended to the job by someone that the employer knows, then if the employer has a slowdown in their work and they need to lay people off, they're likely not going to be going after your job if they can help it, because they don't want to make the person that they have a network with feel badly. So it gives you a much better chance of getting a job than other job search methods. And so give you some just examples of how to, and again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of networking. It's not something that I make expensive BCG when I personally place people. This is not something that makes me money. I have no incentive other than to try to get you a job to tell you about networking. Because, and the reason I'm telling you about it with so much vigor here is that it works. It is the most effective way for most people to get a job if there's a job available. You have a lot of ways to get positions through networking. You can reach out to people that you've previously worked with is one thing. So one of the things that's very important is whatever job you have, you should never burn bridges. You should never burn bridges with your peers that you may be working with in your company or your law firm. You should never burn bridges if you can help it with your classmates. One of the most successful attorneys in the country in terms of having the largest book of business and being the head of a corporate practice at one of the largest law firms in the world is a guy I went to law school with. And he was the nicest guy, smiling and everyone, telling everyone they were great. And I was like, what the hell's up with this guy? I remember in law school because everyone was competitive. But this sort of personality that he had enabled him to get positions that do extremely well. You have to be able to network. People have to like you. You have to be likable. The first thing is you need to try to do the best you can with everyone you encounter. You should be networking with the grocery store clerk whose son or daughter may be a partner in one of the world's largest law firms. You should network with people in your community at games and for your kids and for other people that own companies, and do so in a genuine way. Just take an interest in people. You should be networking on LinkedIn and using that to build connections in a way that is genuine, not just saying, I want to connect with you and then send me an email. Do you want can you do some business with me? It needs to be a lot more than that. You can network on social media groups, on different websites about things that you're interested in. You could be interested in something and then a social media group for people that like art from the 18th century Europe or something. People ask you if you're an attorney. You try to network everywhere. You just go out there and be nice to people, and people ask you what you do, you tell them, but you try to network with groups that are most likely to give you business. It's very common for attorneys, for example, to, once they try to start getting business, they go on to different sites or they try to join different boards, and they don't ask for business in the boards. They just sit there and contribute to the boards, and then people end up referring business to them. Often the company group they're on the board for. Bar association events can work, your family can work, friends can work, and anyone else that you're networking with can work. Now, you can network when you say you need a job, but the time to start networking, honestly, is now. So you need to start developing these networks and do in a way that offers assistance to people, that doesn't ask for anything, that contributes your expertise where you can, that is humble and not looking down on people because you're an attorney. And for many people, this is such an effective way of getting a position that some people are able to use it as their own job search method. I remember talking to an attorney in New York during the 2008-9 financial crisis, and he was doing something like corporate securities where there was just nothing going on. Everyone was losing their position. And he was going out on 2 or 3 networking meetings per day that he had organized with people he knew, and talking about opportunities and getting these weird interviews, being referred to in-house jobs. If you network, you can get a position in almost any economic climate. It's that effective if you know what you're doing. It's something you can learn. And before, newspapers have kind of always been around advertising positions, but at one time before that even existed, networking was the only way that people found positions. And it's really the most important thing. So a lot of times you may ask yourself, Harrison, how do I network? What do I do? I just have this. Is it enough just to have a LinkedIn profile? What do I need to do to build my network? How do I get a job that I really want? And honestly, one of the best things you could possibly do is, and this is exercise that I learned very early in my career. There used to be, when I was a young attorney, meaning first year attorney, I realized the importance of getting business and how important that was. And at the time, I realized that I didn't know anyone. And there was this class that went out. There wasn't many people that talked about how to do this, but I networked with recruiters and other people and tried to find out how to get business. And I got this tape in the mail from this guy that would charge at the time quite a bit of money to teach you how to get business. But he sold this tape for something that was a ridiculous amount of money at the time. A tape, if you don't know and you're too young, you have a cassette tape, and then after the cassette tape came the CD, and then after the CD came the MP3. But tapes, this person was selling tapes because he was even old at that point. Didn't know how to do CDs yet, even though CDs have been around for a long time. So I got this tape, this thing played on. I got him to buy it, and I listened to it. And all this said was 2-hour presentation or whatever, that the tape was a couple $100, which would probably be $500 now for a CD. And all these said, get business, and very interesting. Take out a piece of paper and write down 100 people. So you write down your parents, you write down their friends, you write down relatives, you write down all these different people. And you write down these people, and then you contact them. You don't contact them saying you're looking for a job, but you write down every person. You just write them down, at least 100 people. And everybody, by the way, knows 100 people. So if you get off this meeting and you really want to get a good position, or you really want to develop business, you write down the 100 people that you know, and then you contact. And when you contact them, that's all you do. You call them for a chat. You send them an email asking them how they're doing, and giving them an update that you're thinking about them and hope they're doing well. You tell them you just wanted to check in. You realize that you haven't talked to them in years. You realize you just want to see how they're doing, and they will be flattered by that. Think about anyone that you may have had some contact with in years past, reaching out to you to see how you're doing. You will like that. It makes you feel good. And very few people do that. Think about the people that you know that have done that. And then if the people ask you how you're doing or what you're doing, you should matter of factly, just in an offhand fashion, just say, oh, I'm doing this and that, and talk about things other than your career, your family, and so forth. But after you talk about that, you can just say, oh, I'm just looking for a position or something. I'm not happy with that, and leave it at that. But you just do so in an offhanded way. Not that you're calling the person for a job. You're just checking how they're doing and showing some interest in them. And that's it. And the goal of these calls is just to do an initial conversation with the person, make the conversation about the other person. You can do an email if you like. You can chat with them. But you have to make the networking, the person feel good about themselves, and keep yourself in the background. Then if you do an excellent job doing this, the person will remember you. And if you mentioned in just passing that you are looking for something, in many cases, you'll get a call from them days later, weeks later, or some sort of email will go out with a referral. You just don't know, but it's very common if you do this. And in other cases, the person will just simply remember you and will refer someone to you in the future, or will give you business. This has happened to me. People will suddenly offer me legal business, even though that's not what I do. Now, how powerful is this networking method and writing down people and contacting them? It's very powerful. This is exactly what Bill Clinton did when he went to, I don't know if he did it from the time he was going to Georgetown for college, but I know that he did it at least by the time he was at Yale Law School. He would write down the names of every person that he met, and he would take notes about their family, about what they liked, about this, and that, and keep these notebook cards. And they were obviously over the computers when he started this, but he would keep these notebook cards, and he would notebook cards, women doesn't have that checkbook, but he would keep these notebook cards. And every time he would follow these people, he would make contact with them once a year or twice a year and just ask them how they're doing, and then check up on them with questions about what was going on with them, all these sorts of things, and remember things about them and call them on their birthdays and do all these sorts of things. And because he did that, he was able to be referred to more and more powerful people. And by being referred to more and more powerful people, he was able to rise politically and have people get behind him, behind the scenes, get referred to things, and became president of the United States at a very young age. Henry Kissinger did the same sort of thing. He was able to meet very powerful people and that may have known very powerful people and network into incredible positions of power by getting to know the president of the country, getting to know this person and that person. All of this stuff, your ability to network is very important. It can take you from being an immigrant, Kissinger was, to at a very young age in the United States, to very quickly be an advisor to presidents. And it's crazy. This stuff works. And I encourage you it's not that complicated. It's your best bet is to just keep in touch, write down people you meet and keep in touch with them and don't lose contact with them. That's all you need to do. People that do this are very successful. They're successful at getting business. They're successful at getting jobs. They are never unemployed most of the time. If they are, they're never unemployed for long. This is, again, extremely important. And all it requires is you to step outside your ego and just say, my goal is to make other people feel good about themselves. And if I do that, then hopefully there'll be some sort of reciprocity. There won't always be, but many times there is. This is something that's very important. It should be just an ongoing part of your legal career. You need to do it all the time. That if you were looking for a job or you were going to be looking for a job, you could connect with 20 people weekly for the next 5 weeks. And then it could be sending an email. It could be liking them on Facebook and sending an email, or liking them on Instagram. It could be contacting different people and connecting with them. Most attorneys they're almost adversarial a lot of times with other attorneys, or adversarial with attorneys from other firms, or adversarial with attorneys in their own firm. They're adversarial with former employers. So if you go from a position of not being adversarial to just contacting people and being their friends and trying to be nice to them, but asking about them, contact those people regularly. It's going to help you. And just the other thing too, is that when you talk to others, those people are likely to tell you what others are doing to find success and things they've heard about that are working in their careers, about getting jobs or about practice areas or about people to work for and things. And so the more you network just as a day-to-day thing, and that you can, it's going to be very helpful. There's a thing that Warren Buffett keeps on his desk right behind him. It's a little diploma of something from a course he took from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Apparently he took it right at the beginning of his career, and he said, that is the most important thing that I ever did was take this course. And taking that course changed my life and career. Of course, teaches how to be nice to other people, how to network, how to flatter people, and all these sorts of things. And he said that made a major difference in his life. And so these are things that are very important for you to do. It's going to really change everything. And I can't implement it. I'd stress it enough. But to start, all you need to do is write down a name of 100 people. Then you need to contact them with a nice email, nice message on LinkedIn, whatever works for you. And think of everybody you meet, not as a competitor, but as someone you can network with. And you can go back and forth with people if you're a litigator and say nasty things to them. But the importance of networking within your own firm, with your clients, with people you meet that can be friends, all these sorts of people it's going to be hugely beneficial for you. And other thing too is networking effectively with your own employer. Having a good network with lots of people is going to prevent you from losing your job. It'll make it easier for you to get work from others. It will do all these things that wouldn't happen whether or not you worth it if you were to do this. So please, I'm telling you, I have no incentive to tell you to do this. I own job boards, I own recruiting firms, I own methods to help people contact firms without openings by sending their resume. But what I'm telling you now is something I have no incentive to tell you, but I'm telling you because I really want you to get a position and I really want you to get business. And this is, again, one of the most important things you can do. Now, the next thing I'm talking about is, normally you think, of course, public job boards are a good way to find positions. And yes, they should be part of your repertoire of ways to find a position. That means you should be on LinkedIn. You should use Indeed. You should use whatever site is hot at the moment. And you should use different ways, social media sites that may have jobs at them. But one thing you need to understand is anytime you go to a public job site, those job sites are charging the employer to post jobs there. Most people are very familiar with that because those job sites' job is to attract as many applicants as possible to the jobs that the employers are paying to post. It's just as simple as that. Their job is to make sure that they attract a ton of applicants. They don't care if you get a job. They just want to get a ton of applicants. And people don't like public job boards, especially when you may be applying for positions that may not match your qualifications. This lack of success will mean that you apply to positions or you apply to all these positions and you're not getting an applicant. This may lead people to believe that they're useless. They are not useless, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But one of the big reasons that people don't get positions when they apply to jobs in public job boards is because most of the time what happens, then it happens when I'm trying to get people jobs with BCG and a bunch of other methods. But if people are applying for legal positions, you really need to apply right after the listing goes live. So an employer will buy a job and they'll say, they'll be charged by the job site to leave it open for 30 days, or they'll be charged a pay-per-click, like some cases like on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or whatever. But this is something that's important to understand because if you apply for legal positions after the first day it goes live, the employers are typically going to ignore applicants that come later. And the reason for that is because during the first couple of days of the job going live, the job will go live and everyone in the job site's database will get that's a match, will get an email with the job. And then those people will all go apply to the job. And so the employer will be overwhelmed. In the first few days, the job comes live. They will look at maybe, 50 emails or 50 things on the website about the jobs. And then if they don't find anything, and that they'll typically find something that they like day, and they will start ignoring everything that comes later because it's a lot to keep up, a lot of emails, a lot of things to look at. And they would rather interview the people that are there than spend a lot of time reviewing things. And so that's how that works. This is, again, just my experience real quick. when we have positions in our company for writers, programmers, and we always post positions on public job boards because our company does not recruit for anything but attorneys. And so when we post these jobs, it's just like I said, we see so many applicants that it's very difficult. So I just typically will review the ones that come in the first day, and then the job could be up for a month. Some jobs you posted for 60 days. And I do try to close these jobs, but if I have 5 or 10 jobs open and all of these applicants are coming in at the same time, it can be very difficult to remember to close them, much less to keep up with all the stuff that's coming in. So it's quite a bit of work for an employer. And so the employer typically will just turn off the job site, or if their emails coming, put them into a different box in their computer, or not check the job site anymore. And I will typically, as most employers do, like I see them do it at BCG and other places, they will ignore everything that comes in later. Because they've already decided to schedule an interview, which takes a lot of time. You got to get the resume, you got to respond to the person, you got to email them or call them. And that's a lot of work. So people need to fix that. And if you apply for a position in the first few days it's out, the odds are very good that you're going to be interviewed and hired for the job compared to if you apply later. So if you were just to show up on Indeed today or Indeed or whatever site or LinkedIn and started applying for a position there, the odds are very slim that you're going to get any of those, because instead of being like 24, 48 hours, 72 hours old, these jobs could have been up there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And the employer just looks at them as noise at this point. Like no one's going to respond because they've already responded. if it's an HR person, that's a lot of work for them to review applicants that are coming in and to call people. They would prefer to have the job filled sooner rather than later. And it's not a prejudice against HR people. It's also the person that's asked the HR person to do it. Because if someone's trying to hire someone, they're losing money by not doing so. And it's just how it works. And this is just a general thing that people do. A lot of times employers will also leave these jobs up because they want to get all the emails and all the applicants they possibly can because they may need them in the future. And most employers will leave their active jobs up long after they've been filled. It's just how it works. They want to get their money's worth and that's what they want to do. The other thing that job sites will do, and I'm not attacking any particular job site right now, but I know what happens. It's very common, is when a job comes onto the job site, they want to look like they have a lot. When a user comes onto the job site, they want to look like they have a lot of jobs. Looking like they have a lot of positions up there is very good for them because people will stay on websites that think have a lot of jobs. So they will start leaving all of these positions up there that have already been filled. They will encourage employers to post a job for 30, 60, 90 days. They won't be contacting them saying, is this still open? Is this still open? Even though that would be easy, they will try to keep the jobs open because that will keep people hooked on job site. And they want to keep the jobs open because they want more people applying on the job site and to think it's a good site compared to others. And so there's just a lot of ghost jobs on these sites. You'll apply for these jobs and never hear back. And again, it's often the employer's fault. Sometimes it's the job site's fault because they're trying to look competitive. And then things can just change. And like I said, the jobs will stay up there. So if you're going to most public job sites, the odds are pretty good that a lot of those jobs have been filled a long time. So take an example, just take an example, Indeed. So Indeed charges pay-per-click charge for every person that applies or views the job. I don't even know exactly, or clicks on something. It's always changing. I don't know exactly how it works, but they charge a fee for when an employer does that. Now, a lot of these companies and firms that have jobs on these sites, they're not checking these things all the time. They're not paying for it. Their company is. So you could have a job on a site like that, and these companies, Indeed and things, can run up hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a job that might have been filled a long time ago without constantly telling the employer that this job is open. They're getting charged because it's not their interest. So there's just, again, I'm not attacking Indeed. I'm not attacking LinkedIn. I'm not attacking any job search site at the risk. For all I know, Indeed is not doing this or whatever, but this is how it works. Employers want to keep up jobs as long as job sites want to. And it's just very difficult for you to know whether or not it's a good job or not. Here's another problem. So if it's on a public job site, then if it's a very popular job site, then a huge number of people will have signed up to receive job alerts from the site. That's just very common. That if you're on a public job site, maybe half the people in your profession are receiving jobs from the site. So if you're applying for one of these jobs on a public job site, what's happening is you're going to be competing with over 100 people in most cases, sometimes 200, sometimes 500 for the same job. And your odds of getting that position are going to be very slim unless you have very good qualifications. Unless you do, it's going to be very difficult. And employers are actually more likely to get the best applicants for positions in major markets and smaller ones. So let's say you're applying for a position as a litigator in a mid-sized firm in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, whatever big city. That employer is going to get an incredible number of applications, and the odds are very high that the applicants, the majority of them, or a lot of them, unless you have the best qualifications imaginable, are going to be much better than yours. So that's who you're competing against for jobs. You're competing with the people that applied the soonest, and then you're competing with other people who have the best application or the best backgrounds. And it's not easy to get a position. And the other thing with public job sites, so not only competing with a lot of firms and things, but you're also only seeing a tiny slice of the job market. As you are aware, most employers now do post positions on their career site, but not public job boards. So just a few things that are good about them. Most employers, when they do post a job, they are real jobs, which is good. And they are something that you should be using. And really the best ways to do it are just be among the first people to apply. So you should be, if you are looking for a position, regardless of your seniority level, you should be watching these sites like a hawk. And then my personal piece of advice would be to search also what I call undermarket position. Talk about this. Again, first applicants are most likely to get hired. So you set up job alerts, you check these sites every day. When a job comes out, you respond as quickly as possible. That can be very helpful. This is the most important piece of advice. And then you also want to review undermarketed job sites. So if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to Indeed, these job sites are just going to get incredible amounts of traffic and people hitting them for jobs. A really good source of jobs is often going to be jobs for local bar associations, jobs on local city sites, jobs on local government sites, jobs on different sites for different practice areas. There's job sites for people that do real estate leasing and real estate. There's associations for all this stuff. So there's so many legal associations out there that have jobs that you should be looking at all of these. Sometimes your law school may have a career site, or you just need to look at all of these. Your law school has a career site for practicing attorneys. These sorts of things are good. Association sites, smaller online publication, things that other people don't think about, because your objective with a job site is either to be among the first applicants on a huge job site, or to start finding practice area specific job sites for the local specific job sites to your bar, or just places that have local jobs. And that can be very helpful. You can find all sorts of positions by doing this. And these jobs, by the way, are not going to get a lot of applicants. So your whole goal with the public job site is to be considered among the only or the first applicants. That is very effective, because being among the first applicants means you're not competing with many people. Being able to having applied to job sites where people are listing jobs that a lot of other people aren't applying to is hugely important, because the employer may post something on a local bar association and feel like they're never going to get anyone to apply to the job. And what should they do? And so the smaller, the less known tech, the better, because it's not going to get a lot of traffic. You should also, if you can, sign up for job alerts for these. It's easier to get hired for any job where there's less competition. If someone puts a job on a job site for a few weeks and they don't get any responses, you're the only one, they will feel like you're the best applicant. If you steer away from the largest websites, you do your search on smaller websites, you're going to be much better off. Okay, one other point I quickly wanted to make just about public job sites, just related to the point I just made, is when I was young, from the time I was like, until all through my clerkship, until I graduated until after law school and all the way through clerkship, I had this commercial and residential asphalt business in Michigan. And what would happen would be that a lot of what I did for my business was I put tar on driveways and parking lots. And because it was a very messy job and I was spraying things onto these asphalt, this entire truck I was using would get covered in the sealant and be unusable by people to be sold. And I would also get it all over the inside of the trucks and so forth. So I would need to buy trucks that I could essentially throw away after using them for 3 or 4 months in summer. So what I noticed is that there were 2 big papers at the time that had advertisements for vehicles they were printed. There was the Detroit Free Press and the Detroit News. And then there was also something like Auto Trader or something. When I would try to buy a truck out of these sites, Auto Trader and Detroit News, but the trucks would all be, even the worst ones, over $1,000. It might be $2,500 and that sort of. And then there were these kind of publications that might be called like local publications for local suburbs outside the city of Detroit. And then there was different suburbs that were wealthy and ones that weren't. People could put things in there for free. And when I went to the free advertising sites that didn't have any, actually they would not charge them. But when I went to these sites, I could always buy a truck for $250 or $500 It would be equivalent to the ones that were $2,500, the major publications, because everyone looked at the major publications and bought things there, but hardly anyone looked at these little niche publications. And people that posted trucks on there didn't think they were going to get any action except for lowering their price to $250, which is ridiculous. Finding places that advertise jobs that you are not going to have a lot of competition with is going to help you a great deal. One final piece of advice for public job boards: if you are having a hard time getting jobs, you should also be trying to be geographically flexible and applying to cities and areas in the country or your city or your geographic area that other people aren't applying to. This stuff works. Okay, so the next thing is private legal job boards. I have an incentive to talk to you about this because this is something that I do for a living. But for the legal profession, I might say Law Crossing, probably is the best known private legal job board. Again, I don't want to promote it, but I will tell you what it does. Most job seekers are under the impression that they should never pay someone to help them find a job or pay a site, which is fine. But with this particular site, it does have a substantial number of people that are interested in it. What this does, and people are prejudiced against a site like this because they cost money. People believe they shouldn't have to spend money. They're suspicious of anything that tells them they need to spend money, which I can understand. And they believe that any form of them having to spend money must be a scam, or there must be something wrong with it, which makes to me perfect sense that people would think that way. I would have thought that way when I was young, but as someone that when I started being an attorney, paid for legal research or worked for firms that did, I realized that if you're paying Westlaw or Lexis for access to information, there's nothing really different about doing that with a private job board. And what Law Crossing does, for example, is we'll go out and you see here, and we'll look at different sites in a way I'll explain in a minute. There's over 100,000 employer sites, meaning 100,000 law firms. When you take them into bulk, you have 100,000 law firms, plus companies, plus government offices, plus public interest organizations that have legal jobs. So all of these organizations have legal jobs on their websites, and just legal sites. If you take public job sites and that sort of thing, there's over 1,000 of them. If you look at different websites, there's tons of them. They pop up like they're just crazy. And then there's thousands of state and local and government sites that advertise their own legal positions. There's public interest sites, not just hundreds, arguably 1,500 to 1,000. And there's a lot of publicly available jobs. But in order to find this information, these jobs aren't being put on LinkedIn, Indeed, because LinkedIn and Indeed will charge employers to put those jobs up there. So in order to take this information and compile it all in one place, that's what something like Law Crossing does. So instead of having to look at tens of thousands of places where jobs are posted for free, that website will go out and it will look at places where that things are not, or things where you'll put all that information in one place, and it works. This is what Law Crossing does. People get lots of positions every day. There are hundreds of thousands of people have used the site to get positions. It then looks at every law firm, corporation, government, public interest organization, and any source of jobs it can find, and it monitors them. And it's something that no one could do on their own. And then it also looks at other job sites. So it looks at small, large job sites and all these sorts of things to find jobs. It's by finding these positions that are on places that may not be getting a lot of traffic, or places you wouldn't know about. This makes your job search much easier, and it allows you to be thorough, and it gives you access to all the positions out there, and it helps you research everything. So instead of just looking at and applying to jobs on Indeed or whatever in LinkedIn, which again is a good strategy, it enables you to look at everything out there, and by everything, every type of job, every type of that gets advertised, no matter what the site. It could be a law school on a law school site, it could be anywhere. So all of these positions are, and it's no different. And you're taught in law school to use Lexis and Westlaw to search for positions and find them anywhere that they can be, that they're advertised. And this is the same thing. It's just a research service for jobs. And you should be researching to find positions and not just looking at public job sites. If you are able to access every law school job site, every association website, every government website with jobs, state, local, and obviously every law firm, a job website, all that stuff is a huge benefit to you to find jobs. And you just, with Law Crossing, you can sign up for job alerts if you join the site, and then just apply to openings as they come out. And I do the same thing, apply to jobs, which be among the first people, and then apply to as many positions when you're using a job site as you possibly can. And it will get you, it can get you positions. And when you get interviews, you should go out and interview. This is another thing people do. A lot of people, when they get interviews, will look at the employer and say, oh, I'm not, it's my time talking with them. Not realizing that this is an networking opportunity. I'm crazy. So you go out and interview with someone, and then you may not be interested in them. They may tell other people in the future that they think you're good for the job, or they may remember you, or they may do something for you in your career later. So all of this helps a great deal. You should really be trying to go in interviews and as much stuff as you can. And why am I talking about going to interviews with Law Crossing? I'm talking about it because I've referred the site to people that were friends, and they've gone from spending weeks not having any interviews to getting more interviews. If they're in large markets, insurance, defense, and things, getting so many interviews, they don't know what to do. It's when you contact employers that aren't getting a lot of applicants, it works. Now, here's another thing I like about Law Crossing. It's got something called, again, I don't want to be promoting this site too much. I just want to, this is a job search method that I've invented. And so I like talking about it. But it has a method thing you can do where you can actually go in and search for positions that no longer exist, meaning things that are expired. And this is actually a very good way to look for jobs, because you can find employers that need someone like you in the past. And so if an employer's had an advertisement on their website or whatever for someone like you in the past, the odds are pretty good that they need someone like you in the future. And so that's very positive. And so you just, as a job seeker, the dumbest thing you can do is not be aware of all the opportunities that are available. Why would you want to only know about the few opportunities you're competing with everyone else in the market for on a public job site? Does that make any sense? Wouldn't you be better off if you knew about all of the opportunities that were advertised on all the employer websites and association websites? And so getting as many interviews as you can, you should be applying to current jobs, you should apply to archive jobs, and you're a product and you need to market yourself. It doesn't make any sense to only market yourself through networking. That's one method. It doesn't make any sense to only market yourself through public job boards. It doesn't make any sense to only market yourself through something like Law Crossing. I mean, you can, you should, but think about it. Why wouldn't you, I mean, this is very important what I'm saying right now. Why wouldn't you do more than one different type of method to search for a job? Because if you do one, you're going to get the results of one. If you do two, you're going to get the results of 1 and 2. If you do 3, you're going to get the results of 1, 2, and 3. And all of these things will build on each other. They will build on each other because you will have done a very good job. I'll tell you a funny story. There was this girl, I was in this hot yoga class, and there was this girl that was also in a class there. And she had no ring on, and I couldn't believe it because she was closer to my age. It was several years ago. And so I really wanted to ask her out. And then I got this email. I'd signed up for this site, eHarmony, but just this random site. And I hadn't paid a subscription fee or anything. I just had started the registration, and I got to this paywall, and so you had to pay and everything. So I was like, forget it. And they started sending me my match each day, or matches. And I realized a few days later that this girl was at the very top of my matches each day. I recognized her. And then she was also in my yoga class. So I contacted her on this app and told her she's the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen and all this sort of stuff. When I saw her, and I couldn't believe she's married. And she'd gotten that message. And I told her she was in the yoga class. And then when I saw her in the yoga class the next time I talked to her, so I contacted her in both methods. And had I just walked up and talked to her, she probably would have been like distant. Had I just contacted her on the site, she might have just thought, if I just contacted her randomly, she probably wouldn't have responded. So taking both methods is resulting in me meeting someone that I'm engaged to and everything. So I'm just saying 2 different methods of getting in touch with an employer are very effective. And it changed certainly my life this way. That changes people getting a job. So get these methods of finding the job. If you do them all together, if you do Law Crossing, apply to jobs not Law Crossing, you apply to older jobs on Law Crossing, you do job sites, you apply first, you do other markets, you network, you do all these things. Come on, you're gonna be like an unstoppable force in job search, regardless of how great or crappy you think your your resume is or your experience. You can freaking kick some, just go all out. So here's another one that's incredibly effective. This, by the way, I'm just going to throw it out there, is the most effective way possible. This is something that if you do it right, always works. It will change your life. I mean, I'm serious. This particular method, mass targeted mailing to legal and other employers for positions, unbelievably important. Just this alone, if you have sat through this webinar, a couple more to get through so far, if you understand this, it will change your life. You will get more jobs than you know what to do with. You will get more interviews than you know what to do. And I don't care about background. I don't care about who you think you are, whether or not you're good or bad. I don't care if you want to work in house. I don't care if you want to work in a law firm. This particular method will blow your freaking socks off. It works so well. And I'm sorry to be so enthusiastic about this here, but I've seen this method of searching for a job that just profoundly alter the course of people's lives again and again and again. And that's why I want you to be aware of it. This is such a powerful way of getting a job. I can't even begin to tell you. I ran a company for a long time called Legal Authority that did it. It was incredibly effective, but it was so much work that the company literally could not make money doing this because it was just, there was the cost of doing it with research and the mailings and stuff was way too much. So I'm going to tell you about how to do it right now, what you need to do. But if you start doing mass targeted mailing to legal employers for positions, it's going to just change everything. You can build lists of people for employers to contact you. I love if when you were to print and send a letter and sign it. You can certainly send emails to people expressing interest in them. And what does that mean? All it means is you can go on to search for law firms in a city that do your practice area. You can use, when you search for these law firms, you can use a list. You can use, I don't know, FileLaw, whatever sites at the moment are listing attorneys from different practice areas. You can do that, and you can develop a list of a ton of employers and find out who to contact there. You can do a search for attorney or law firms in your practice area. I don't care what freaking city you are in the United States. If it's not more than 10,000 people, there's probably going to be several law firms there that you can apply to. If you search for trusting estates, attorneys and law firms in Los Angeles, you'll get thousands of people that you can apply to. Thousands. I mean, these numbers probably are mine, how many people there are. I had a law firm in Malibu, which is a city of maybe 15,000, but it's next to Los Angeles, Thousand Oaks, like all these big cities. And you can get there in 20 minutes. And this law firm basically represented BCG and law crossing, all these things when people were trademark infringing and whatever. And we had to go after people, firms that were paying us. But basically, I received the entire time I had a law firm that was listed #1 in Google for Malibu law firm. It was listed for every practice area people would search for in Malibu law firm that came up in, searches. So if you just search for litigation law firm within 25 miles, it came up listed on those too. And the entire time I had that, I had maybe one person, I don't even know if it was that, send me an actual letter to this law firm. I had one guy drop off a resume. And then I had another woman that lived in Malibu once come in and talk to me about working there because she'd seen a sign with the law firm name on the entrance to this giant, basically the center business area in Malibu. So no one contacted me. Had they done so, I would have been very excited to talk to them about working there. And this is what happens to employers. No one is applying to every freaking employer that they could. They just don't do it. They are scared to. They don't understand the logic of it. It's absolutely crazy. So what does that mean? So say you want to work in personal injury and you're living in Madison, Wisconsin, and you're looking at all these job sites and you're saying, oh, there's no jobs for personal injury, or I applied to the 5 and that's nothing happened. And then you go to law crossing, and maybe you don't see enough jobs there, whatever, I don't know. And then you try to network and nothing happens. Come on. There's probably 300 to 500 personal injury attorneys that have their own firm in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure there's at least 100. Why wouldn't you apply to all these people? You have to be insane. But no one does this. I just don't get it. All you have to do is develop a list of these people and apply. I'm telling you, no one does this. It's the most easiest way to get a job. If an employer sees a applicant from someone and they think, my God, I can make money bringing this person in, or wow, this person wants to intern me for the summer. That's so cool. I've never received an in-person interest like this. No one friggin' does this. I do not know what's wrong with you if you don't. I'm just telling you, this thing works. Absolutely the most effective possible to get a job. If you are having any issues getting jobs, you go to Google and you search for your practice here in whatever town you want to work in, and there will be plenty of jobs. If you're not finding jobs there and enough people, then look in a bigger city. If you think that you've exhausted the job market on a major job, no, it's impossible to not get a job doing this. I have gotten tens of thousands of people jobs. Other people thought closed down because it was just money. But the point is, it works. And most people believe that employers will not hire for advertised positions. A lot of people think unsolicited mail-ins are a waste of time. Yes, they are a waste of time because what most people do is idiotic. They apply only to MLaw 100 law firms or firms that are listed in chambers for the best search, U.S. News, the best firms. That is a very small subset of players out there. That is maybe 0.5%. So yes, unsolicited mail-ins to the very best firms that everyone's applying to are a waste of time if you don't have the best qualifications. But if you want to apply to places in other locations, then that's fine. But people think that a service like legal authority, if they tried to do it, is a scam. Why would they charge me money to do that? This is a scam. And unfortunately, there are probably places out there that are a scam, but you can do this yourself. It's just incredibly effective. So many people I've known have gotten jobs. It's absolutely incredible. I had a friend of mine that had spent years trying to get this one in-house position, got it, and then he got there and he left a very prestigious job as a senior attorney in an AmLaw 10 law firm, got this in-house job. And then when he got there, he started realizing they were asking him to bend the law and do things that were wrong. And so he told them he wouldn't do it. They fired him and he was without a job after only been at 3 months. I told him, I will help you mass mail your resume to all the big companies that you'd like to work for in Los Angeles, as well as all these law firms. Within 1 week of doing that, he had probably 30 interviews with companies, with law firms. He sent out at least 1,000 letters. And I'm just telling you, man, this is like so freaking easy. This guy didn't have a single interview prior to that. He talked to recruiters, myself included, that couldn't help him. He was unemployed and not in-house. He applied to everything in job sites a couple hours a day. Nothing worked, but this did. You doing this, you basically put yourself out there. And if people think they can make money off you, which in most cases, if you're a lawyer, they can, or if you're a law student willing to work for not a lot of money, they can. It's going to work. There's 100,000 plus law firms in the United States. If you start taking people that are little things that are 2 to 3 attorneys, you're going to get hundreds of thousands. There are thousands of federal, state, and local government offices. It took us weeks to basically track down all of the federal, state, and local government offices that advertise jobs. There's thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of attorneys. When I say 100,000 plus, it's 800,000 plus companies. The numbers are staggering. And all these people have potential jobs that no one's applying to. It's absolutely important. And I hope I'm really digging this in at this point that, that if there's a job, the employer doesn't have to go out and grab to list job vacancies. Instead, they just have these intricate needs. People are sitting there thinking, I could really use an extra attorney to do this, or I could really use an in-house attorney, or gosh, we're not doing enough. We have a lot of corporate work that we're not getting to for our clients. It'd be great to have a corporate person, or our company could really use someone in-house to help with patents. We're just spending way too much money. This is what people are thinking. Companies are thinking this, lawyers are thinking of this, government office may think, we just have a lot of budget money. There's just too much work and we're not getting to it. It'd be great to have another attorney. Boom, you show up and it's just crazy. This works so well. I'm a freaking recruiter, and I'm telling you, that owns a job site that recruits attorneys. And I'm telling you that this particular method of searching for a job is, in my opinion, just completely awesome. I know it works because I've seen it work. And so how do you do it? You go and again, I'm sorry to be like so freaking bullish on this, but for the past 25 years, I've seen it work miracles. It's incredible. So if you want to do corporate mergers and acquisitions in Chicago, as an example, you might be interested in working a small or large firm. You could probably get a list of 1,000 firms in Chicago that do this. There could be 300 law firms. You can research the person, human resources, or you could find a partner that looks like they're in charge of the practice group, contact a partner there, submit a cover letter, be just about them, try to personalize each message. You don't have to, but if you personalize, you're going to be better. And then you send these letters, and you can email them, which is fine. If you mail them through the mail, it gets people's attention quite a bit because no one's doing it. So everyone's email. It's very easy to look at email, but I'll look at the later or something. You get a letter, it shows up on your desk, you're looking at it, and it's actually much easier to get a position that way. So I'm telling you, mass targeted mailing's awesome. You should, if you have time, build lists. This is especially true for law students, people that are employed, and a very good method of getting a job. I've worked with all sorts of people I've told to do this that haven't. I was working with a partner at an investment bank once, and he lost his job, and I told him to do it. And he's, Harrison Barnes didn't do this. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm just have a job, but running a recruiting company. But the point is, like, these work tremendously. So here's another one. Again, I have an incentive in this. I'm a recruiter. You can get jobs for legal recruiter. We're legal recruiters. If you do it correctly, they can find things that you may not know you're aware of. They often work with a legal employer to help them find talent. They often have relationships with different firms in different markets, meaning they are networked into an employer, meaning that employer trusts them. That employer wants to hire people through them because of this network. And so they will use them. A recruiter can reach out to the market and for employers that don't know how to find people or want the recruiter to do everything. And they will cold call, find law firms to work with. They'll cold call law firms. They'll use their network anytime someone comes along, and they were able to find positions. And so a lot of people don't like recruiters, and I understand that. The recruiter will give you often a lack of control. The recruiter will tell you where to apply, and they won't send you anywhere other than that. They will be the first person to talk to the employer if the employer is interested in you. And a lot of people are under the impression that they shouldn't use legal recruiters and be better off doing it themselves. One thing that's very interesting to me is a lot of times candidates will come to BCG from exceptional firms and will think, I shouldn't use a recruiter because a recruiter charges a fee. I'm not going to use a recruiter. I'm going to do it on my own. What's funny about that a lot of times is if you are an attorney, awesome law firm, an awesome background, most of the large law firms expect you to be using a recruiter as opposed to not. A recruiter is someone that sticks up for you, that knows the market, tells you about things that you normally wouldn't know about. What's different about that is that the recruiter is like an agent. Almost every movie star and writer, author, and athlete has an agent. And if you're an attorney, you are actually entitled to have an agent. There was nothing wrong with you having an agent, but a lot of people don't understand that. And people will not use recruiters because they feel like it doesn't give them access to the entire market, which is actually true for a lot of recruiters. And so they feel like they're going to be limited, that the recruiter will also push them to talk to people that they normally wouldn't. The recruiters also charge employers fees. And so they believe that if they come through a recruiter, that the law firm or employer will be less likely to hire them because there's a cost. There is a cost, but in most cases, employers really don't care about it because, first of all, the candidates are guaranteed. They're screened. They come to them so they know someone's good. There's a whole bunch of other reasons that the employer trusts the recommendation, and just a bunch of reasons. And any fees that a recruiter charges usually comes out to less than 5, maybe at most 10% of the revenue that the attorney would generate over the course of a year. So it's not really that big of a deal. There's a lot of bad recruiters out there. There's some that are getting to work. There's others that are weak, don't understand the market. And these bad actors in the market often will taint the reputation of good people. So that's something that people have a lot of bad experience with. Again, I'm not going to promote recruiters too much, but I've been doing this for 25 years. I know it works. I know it works for the vast majority of people that I take on and follow my advice. The biggest thing is that the recruiter is going to know about jobs that employers have not advertised, ones you cannot find on your own. And when they do find those jobs, they know how to package you. So you do not always know how to package yourself. And that's one of the biggest things that a recruiter will do for you. And if you look at my website or BCG, you can see hundreds of articles about job search. You can see me talking about it right now. And so recruiters understand how to put you together. and how to get you to say the things and look the way that an employer's interested in, which actually is something that I do for every single candidate that I speak with, because it's very important. You can say one wrong thing or go into an interview and do one wrong thing, and you're just not going to get the job, and you're going to get rejected. And you're, why do I keep getting rejected again and again? And the reason is because you're doing things wrong, and you're not being packaged properly. So if you're not packaging yourself properly with a mass mailing, if you're not packaging yourself properly with job sites, then you're going to be in trouble. I would recommend just, to review all the articles that I've written on BCG, are the ones that appeal to you most about interviewing, about your resume, about how to act in interviews and that stuff. And then if you're not working with me or sites, and just make sure that you package yourself in that way. It could help you. What I'm telling you now is immense help. If you listen to what I'm saying, it will make you unstoppable. And people that listen to this advice contact me weekly and tell me that I've changed their lives and careers by this. And it's not that I'm telling you anything. I'm some sort of guru. I'm just someone that has been doing this for a long time and likes to write about it and talk about it. The other thing, recruiters will prepare for interviews. They will help resume if it needs it. They will help. They will tell you what to say in interviews. They will write cover letters for you in a way that makes you look strong. They often will not send their people's background to a lot of places. When employers see them, a lot of times there's HR people inside of law firms. They don't have legal backgrounds, and they rely on recruiters to screen and show them the sorts of people that are the best. They're not familiar with all 256 law schools, with the prestige level of every law firm, about all this sort of stuff. So having a recruiter assist them with that is very helpful. And most people that are law firms know exactly what they're doing. 99% of them do, but some people don't. And it's okay. Using a recruiter to screen people, and it is important. It's good. And again, the fees recruiters charge is a small percentage of what the employer needs to pay. And most recruiters only receive their fees 6 months to a year after you might start working there. And this waiting increases the risk of employers hiring you. They don't owe you anything. You don't work out. And then a recruiter is a strong advocate for you. Imagine the way I'm talking to you now. I do the same thing when I'm talking to a law firm about a candidate. I will package them in a way that makes them look good. I will talk to the law firms, interview them before interviews, and tell the firm all these great things about them. Then after the interview, I will contact the firm and tell them how much they like them, and all sorts of things that the candidate wouldn't do on their own, but it makes it much more touchy when it comes from a third party. And so you can get the eyes and ears of people, and then your applications look good. And then we follow up. So we'll send an application on your behalf, and then we'll follow up with the firm after you've been submitted to tell them about you and try to make you the best submitted for the person for the firm. And Ken will say positive things about you and that you couldn't see in your own, or you would look like you're tooting your horn. And again, I'm not going to talk very much more about this, but they'll talk to you about where you grew up, your struggles, other factors that make you unique compared to other applicants that you couldn't say to firms and so forth on your own. So that's very helpful. How do you use recruiters? You find the recruiter that matches for you. There's permanent placement. There's contract placement. There's in-house recruiters. There's people that only do law firms, which is what I am. There's people that only do various geographic territories. And you just need to use someone that specializes in whatever you're seeking. What I will say to you about most recruiters, and is that what happens is most of them subscribe to this service that tells them about jobs at the largest law firms, and then gives them the names of all the attorneys working in the largest law firms and their practice areas. So the second a job comes out at one of these big firms, these recruiters rush out and contact all the matching people and send them those jobs, and that's where they're bidding their best. Now, is there a benefit for working with one of 20 people that contacts you about a certain job? Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of times this is something that it's the best recruiters, in my opinion, will find you places that are small, that other people don't know about, or that are large, that don't necessarily have positions, and not just follow this kind of thing that most recruiters are following, which is getting jobs from the service to the big firms, and then having the names of people that they can email or call at the big firms. Again, there's large recruiters, small recruiters, and all sorts of different people. Recruiters know about the market. They know the people that are employers there, which is very helpful. They have represent people there. I've represented tons of people in my career representing now that have tried networking, have tried mass mailing, have tried all those different things. They haven't done those things effectively, in my opinion, but I've represented them and people that have never had an interview in months or years in some cases. When I say years, they might have taken leave or done something else and then come back. But the point is that I've been able to get people jobs that never could get interviews or jobs on their own. And of course, I don't always give people jobs. I don't always give people interviews. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but if you work with a good recruiter, can help you. And that's really, I don't want to say too much more about this. There's job search services that will do things for you. Law Cross and Concierge is one that will apply to places for you. I think that's another thing that costs too much money that we may not be using right now. It researches jobs, helps you apply to them. I don't need to have to say a lot of really too much about that. It's just someone that will look at the market for you, send you links to jobs you can apply to, and help you with that. And I don't want to be respectful of people's time and not talk too much about this. This is just an idea of something that will send you the openings to approve and then apply to places for you, so you don't have to do and spend the time doing it. And it can do it for all sorts of places. People that have used the service through us in the past have liked it a lot, gives them convenience, and that sort of. I don't want to talk too much about that. And we're almost done with this webinar. Job things that are done for you, some people may like. And then the final thing I want to talk about is law school career services offices, which I'm actually very enthusiastic about. I think that they're a very good resource for people. They can help you find untapped positions in legal ways to get a job. They are very good resources to assist you with your job search. You can use this at any stage of your legal career. So a lot of people think they only can use the law school career services offices when they're in law school. But it's not true. A lot of times people have very poor experiences with career services offices when they're in law school. It's nothing necessarily about that's negative about the career services office. The career service office may be overwhelmed. You may be at a school where they just can't help you because the school's not good enough. I don't know. And a lot of times people that go to the career services offices are very turned off when they don't get help or they don't get a lot of support from these offices. So that's really one of the things. People often go to the career services offices. They rely on it almost exclusively for them to tell them how they should search for a job and help them. The career services offices can't help them. It may just be someone who's not in the career services offices, not good at their job or doesn't have the benefit during the background. But it's not something you should feel badly about. If they're overwhelmed or you need to make appointments, follow up, if you're persistent. There may be 3 people in the career services offices helping 500 people in law school or 1,500. It's just difficult. And these advisors are they're very busy people, but they often have incredible number of contacts. They have contacts of alumni. They get employers contacting them exclusively for jobs. They get more employers interested in graduates or people who've been practicing for a long time than they get often people that want law students. So that's huge. The employers that have gone to school there or are local to a city or will contact these career services office and tell them they're looking for something. And sometimes they may say, oh, we're looking for a 4th year or 3 to 6 year person to help us with the employment litigation, defense, or plaintiff or whatever. And the career service will say, thank you. And they'll put it on their job board or whatever. Or they will just list it somewhere. But if you have a relationship and you're talking to the career services office and you're in contact with them, they'll tell you about that job. And that employer may hardly get any applicants. And they know people likely to hire their graduate because they keep track of where people want to work. And most of the people in the career services office, not all of them, but are former practicing attorneys, and they have connections and they know how they got a job, and they can help you with your resume and cover letter or help you prepare for interviews. If you ask, you have to ask. If you ask, they will help you. And if you went to school there and you come back to them years later, they will help you and it's free. But so it's absolutely an awesome deal. You should use wherever you went to law school or you're going to law school, you should get as much out of your career services office as you possibly can. And a lot of attorneys and law students make mistakes. They're too proud to draw on the resources, career services. And they fail to utilize this resource. And the people inside of a career services office don't have any incentive. They're not there to flatter you. They're not there to tell you you're great. They will tell you exactly what your problems are if they can. And they will, it's very important. You should talk to them. You can talk to them when you're older. It just doesn't matter. And when I was in school, I've hired graduates from local law schools like UCLA and stuff just by calling the career services office. They gave me the names of good people to interview. It helped me find good employees. And I found people that were just and stayed on the radar and graduated and found jobs. And you can find very good employees by using your career services office or employer. You can find jobs. And some of them will actually, they'll package up your resume if you're on the radar, and they'll send they'll send a book of all these resumes for you to look at. And then they'll say, oh, we really like this person. So if you're on their radar, they'll promote you and they'll say you're good. And if they like you, they'll talk to employers all the time. An employer might call and say, hey, I'm looking for a second year person to do landlord tenant litigation. And they'll say, wow, that's great. Would you have any interest in someone that I've been talking to that's got 6 years of real estate litigation? They say, yeah, sure, send them over. So being on their radar is hugely important. And for the most part, the career services office are very nice about their attorneys, and I've heard them go to bat lots of times. I don't want to waste too much time. We'll have a few more slides left, but you should really stay on the radar of your career services office if you can and check in with them. It's especially the case if you're local to an area or you're just out of school, or you're in school. You need to make sure you get the maximum benefit out of it and do everything you can. They'll give you interview support. They'll give you cover letter support, resume support. They will do everything they possibly can to help you. Many schools have private job sites. You should also use that. You should ask them to take a look at your resume, cover letter. I remember when I was a law student, I didn't want anybody giving me any form of input on my resume or cover letter, even though that would have been the smartest possible thing I could have done. And that would have gotten me a lot more jobs. It's just a conclusion. And again, I don't want to take too much more time, but the most important thing I can tell you is you have to do as many of these things as possible. If you just use your career services office and you use it effectively, you have your resume done, cover letter, you have to network with local employers is hugely important. If you network yourself, you can find jobs and keep in touch with people. If you use public job sites effectively, you can get jobs, and that can be effective and you can get jobs. If you use private job sites, law crossing, you can find jobs that other people don't know about. If you do mass mailing, you can suddenly get in touch with every single possible employer that you could work for that's not receiving frickin' applications. All of this stuff, by the way, is like a nuclear bomb for your job search. It works. If you really want a job and you want to have a good legal career and you want to get the best position possible, you need to do all of these things. Why do I say that? Because you're a product. You get letters in the mail every single day from people that are trying to sell you roofing services or whatever. When you want to hire someone to do some work around your house, you may ask your neighbors for recommendations, and the neighbors may refer someone to you, and that will help you. If you know someone that does the type of work or someone that knows someone, you may contact that person to do the work. If people are not advertising to you on the television, radio, or on email, and on websites trying to get you to buy stuff because it's a waste of their time, they're advertising because they have products and services to sell. You have a service to sell. You should be marketing your service effectively. If you do that, you're going to get the most money for whatever work you're trying to do. You're going to have the most selection. Why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you do everything you possibly can? Recruiters, job sites, networking, mass mailing, whatever it is, do everything you possibly can to get a job. Again, I've never in my career met someone that can honestly tell me that they've done each of these things as effectively as they can. Some people may do a mass mailing, but those people will not network with the career services office. Some people may only use recruiters, but we'll think of other ways. If people come to me and they're like, hey, I got this offer, I'm applying to places and they're candidate. I'm like, well, you need to look out for yourself, or you need to get the best position you can. If I do get you something, that's great. You need to do all of these methods. You can't possibly succeed in your career getting the most money and getting the most environment, of getting a place where you're happy, of getting a place where you're going to have upward motivation, upward mobility, if you don't do these things. And you need to do everything you can to have an effective job search by making sure that you're employing as many of these freaking methods as you can, because if you don't, you're going to be in massive trouble because you're going to potentially not have access to all of the opportunities you otherwise would to make the most money and have the best place to work. Now, I want to give Just a couple more insights and then I'll be done. Your career is not over if you don't do these. My goal for you to do all these things, but my goal for you is really for you to wind up in the absolute best position in your career and life as you can. And why wouldn't you try to find the best place for you? Or why wouldn't you do that? I know people that go to one law firm, the law firm tells them they're horrible and they're not good and there's problems with them. And then they go to another law firm, sometimes an even better law firm. That law firm thinks you're the greatest thing that ever happened. It's all about being in the right environment. And so it's difficult for people to find the right environment. And if you have a lot of options, which I'm trying to give you here by telling you all these things, then you can walk into some place and have the right environment. And that can change your life. You'll be happier, you can work that you like better, people you like better, your people will see what's positive in you instead of what's negative. And this stuff is huge. It's very good for you to do that. I really hope that what I've said today will make a huge difference in your life and your career, because this stuff is freaking massively important. And I really want to help you. And I hope that I commend you for sitting through this fairly long thing, but I really told you about the gist of what I had to say. And thank you for taking the time to watch this. You're just like a freaking superstar, because this is been a fairly long webinar, but probably one of the most important things you can ever have to make progress in your career. So I will take a quick break now so everyone can take a break as well. And we'll be back probably after 1 or 2 minutes. When we do come back, this is a live webinar, so I will answer as many questions as people have for as long as they have questions. And then after, we'll just basically stay as long as you have questions, answer questions. Your question can be about the job search methods, or it can be about anything whatsoever about your career. And again, nice job for watching this whole webinar, because this has been a lot of material but very important. And sometimes when you watch this stuff, you may not think it's all sinking in, but you will think about it and it will change how you think. And what I've told you today is the product of 25 years of watching significant portion of attorneys, and 10% of them at least, that have used more than each that have helped, using these things and are successfully and not successfully getting jobs. Questions? Give me 1 second. I'm going to just pull up another thing here. Let's see if this center presentation is really something that's very significant, because if you understand everything, it will make a massive difference in your life and your legal career. It's awesome that you were able to sit through this and watch it, because that was a fairly long presentation. Okay, so let's get started with questions right here. Give me 1 second. Okay, see the first question. And again, as many questions as everyone has, I'm happy to answer. And we'll get started. Let me see some of the questions. I'm going to try to answer some of the questions later in the webinar first, because I want to review people that have watched this, because a lot of the questions may have come later. Right? Questions after you see here. I'm looking for advice as to what the best tips are for getting traction in BCG attorney search. Asking because I applied a numerous solutions within 24 hours and yet to receive a single response. When applying the set, I'm even sure I'm applying, so it looks like I'm just saving the job. Would love your tips and find the best result through BCG. Okay, that's a good question. So what happens when you apply to BCG is that you can put jobs in your account and so forth, but then once you do that, your resume and so forth is reviewed for what's called a resubmission. And you read what either you submitted your resume to us, or you resubmitted it, and then your background is looked out to see if you look appropriate for those jobs. And sometimes you may be, sometimes you're not. If you're not appropriate for those jobs, then you're typically, if there are other jobs you're appropriate for, then BCG will contact you about them and try to represent you. We will represent you. Depending on who you are, I will talk to you. I talk to a significant portion, and a call with me will be scheduled. And if it's not me, that will be someone else from our team that I've trained that will talk to you about your positions and also give you the chance to apply to them. But when you go to our website and just look at jobs, you're not actually applying for positions. You're applying for positions, but we have to screen your resume to make sure it's right for the employer. And that's part of our service to employers, is to screen people for those jobs. So we always review your resume to see if we are a good fit. If you are a good fit, then we will send you the names of those employers, questionnaire, and other things to help you get you ready for the position in terms of applying, and then do that. That's the best thing to do. And then one of the things is if you are in BCG, it's important to keep your account active. Sometimes you get a lot of resume, you'll get a lot of emails and things, which I don't like spam either, but that's just the way it is. I don't know that I like a lot of these emails either. They just sometimes are emails that I'm put in there to go out to people and things. But you always should try to keep an active account at BCG, because in almost all instances, if the company can't help you right now, they usually can later. So that is something that can be very helpful. Okay, during my job hunt, I've been using private job sites, but I'm struggling to stand out from the competition. Are there specific strategies or techniques you recommend for making my application more noticeable to employers? Also, how can I ensure that my resume gets seen by the right people within the law firms I'm targeting? I want to make sure that I make the most of these platforms. I feel like I might be missing something crucial. Any insights to maximize my chances of landing a job site through a legal job through private site job site in university? Okay, so private job sites are paid sites. This person is saying they're probably using whatever, Law Crossing, Ladders, I don't know, trying to find a job, position. And they're asking how they can make their application more noticeable to employers. The way to make your resume more noticeable to employers, there's lots of ways. Sometimes it's doing a follow-up saying, I just want to let you know I'm very interested in this position, attaching your resume. Very few people do that, but if you do that, that is one way to stick out. Another way to stick out is to, instead of just submitting your resume through some online portal, send a letter to someone in the firm saying you're interested in it. That can be very helpful. We need to do a printed letter instead of that, but those are some of the main things. When you do apply to places, you want to apply, always be more inclusive rather than trying to reduce things down. A lot of people will look at a job site and think that they need to only apply to the things that are the perfect match. And really you need to cast as wide of a net as possible. So that's very important. And some of the mistakes people make are when they're applying to jobs. Often they have these kind of resumes aren't focused on a single practice area, and they expect employers to hire them. But if the resume is not really focused and you're applying for a job in a certain practice area, it's very difficult to get a job because it doesn't look like what you're doing. Other resumes make political statements, meaning they show very clearly that they're Democrats or Republicans or have certain opinions about whatever, just sensitive issues that people in the United States are on one side or another of, or something that's very political, meaning, I don't know, but that political, something that could rub people the wrong way. And I don't know what that is. There's so many different things. It could be the groups you're in, your whatever. But if you have those things on your resume, a lot of times that can hurt. So there is a preference in this country, but for people to put a lot of left-wing stuff in their resume, and that actually can work if you're trying to find left-wing employers. But you have to be careful about all this stuff. So your resume has to look like that you're just there to work. And if that's the case, then you won't be seen as taking sides on an issue. And then that automatically increases half the country is Democrats and Republicans. And you remove that from your resume, that's automatically going to increase your chance of getting a job by 50%. There's just all sorts of things you can do. Also, so let me just talk about some of the best ways to get jobs. So geography, that's geography. You need to apply to places no one else is. Places no one else is. That's one of the easiest things you can do. You can fix your resume. Remove doesn't help. Remove political doesn't help. You can apply to old field jobs, archive or BCG. People that have hired people like you in the past, right? I've had ads for people like ads. In addition, you can fill jobs, archive, fix resume. You can be the first to apply. And one of the things I saw that was very interesting, I had a position for an in-house counsel years ago, BCG attorney search. And I remember people calling. There were a couple of people that called, said they were interested in the job. They talked to me. They left these messages. And one of them was this very talented attorney with great background from Latham & Watkins. And the other was someone from, remember, Simpson Thatcher in Los Angeles or something. And yet I got a lot of 100+ applications for this. but the best people called me. They left me messages. They told me how interested they were. And I was flattered. Thought, what a great idea. Calling the HR people and telling them your HR partner, whatever, and telling them we're interested. So that actually is very, and because then it makes you stick out. If you like, you can also network. I don't know how you would do that, but if you network effectively prior to sending an application, that can get you a position. So that is one thing as well. So you could do that. So that's one way. I can suggest to you a lot of potential ways to get a job, but these, in my opinion, in terms of getting people's attention, one of the best. Sometimes you can, drop off a resume. Some people do that. They drop it off, and then if they really want to work there, that gets people's attention very effectively. So I've had people, I used to have an office in downtown Los Angeles, where I was right in the middle there and sitting in the office 10 plus hours a day. And I would have people that would occasionally just stop by out of the blue and say they were interested in me helping them for a job. And I was very effective. Would help, right? Would work. So these are some of the ways that you can do things that will help you quite a bit when you're trying to find a job on your own, applying for job sites. You need to stick out. Okay. So these are great questions, by the way. And these questions are actually about what I spoke about. So I appreciate that. And I will, to the extent I can, I will enter. Okay. I noticed that many law firms don't openly advertise their job openings. Is there a specific strategy you recommend for uncovering these unadvertised job opportunities? How can I make myself stand out to potential employers who might not even realize they need someone with my skills or appearance? Okay. What terms is question asked? So this question might have been asked before I talked about mass mailing. Mass mailing is contacting people, contacting firms, et cetera, that may have, I'm going to show you how to do this. Do what you want, or do what you want. Okay. Let me just make sure we safe here. Okay. This is good. Okay. Let me just show you real quickly on Google how I think I gave the example of, let's just take a look at a map. I just want to see if there's places where it might be interesting to look at lawyers. So states, bigger. Anyway, let me look at it up. The reason I'm doing this is just to show everyone. Wait, it's larger. Okay, so I'm going to just show you in a different pane here. You see here. Doing this to have fun here. Okay, so like all these towns, you have, let's see, Wisconsin, Dallas, Nebraska, Colorado. Okay, so you have Denver. So let me just pick a random city here. Colorado. So you have, this is the Colorado Springs, Pueblo. Say Pueblo, that's a random. Okay, so you go state attorneys. You're just doing this to show you how this is done. So you go real estate attorneys, and I'm just doing a random city. And in Pueblo, this is showing you different firms that do it. So you have these people, real estate lawyers there, and then you also going to have businesses that do it. And this is I just chose a random thing. You're going to have all of these things that just here. You're going to have all these people on Find Law. You're going to have all of the recommendations in Yelp, Law Info, actual law firms. This right here was, I guess, is a law firm and there that does it. These attorneys do this work. You could contact, they just real estate and estate planning, but you could contact them about a position if you wanted to work in Pueblo, Colorado. I just chose a city that was random but small. I'm just showing you that in all of these any geographic area in the country where you're interested in working, and contact people. So what would I do? I would get a list of all of these people right here. I would just go through it. And again, this is like a nuclear bomb for your jobs. If you want to work in wherever, and you have, this is 1 to 20 results of many. These are all people that they're holding out as, some of these are like, they're not necessarily real estate. They can be doing other things, but estate planning, bankruptcy. So you can find attorneys that do what you want in that area of the country. And then you can see here, I did a search for real estate and it gave me all these places. So you would search there, then you can certainly expand your search. Looks like if you want to do Colorado Springs or other areas, it's probably not too far of our commute. So my point is that you want to look in as many areas as you possibly can for as many firms as you possibly can. That's the way to cover the market. and be effective. Because if you're able to do that, and again, these are firms in Pueblo, Colorado. This is not a huge area of the country. And we can do this for any area of the country. So you can go in and this is Pueblo. You could do the same thing at Grand Junction or in whatever, North Platte, Nebraska, anywhere in the country that you want to work, you can do this. If you get into a place like Colorado, California, you're talking about Pasadena, San Bernardino, all these different places and hundreds of cities. And it's crazy. So this is how people should go about getting a job, and very effective. And if you want to make sure that you're covering the market, if you don't do this, then you're just wasting your time on your job search, because none of these people are going to get this Orona Garcia person. Let's see, practice areas, real estate. Look, it's already highlighted. The firm overview, professional profiles. You've got all these people, these 3 people that hold themselves out as doing real estate law there. If they're busy, they might need a third person. Just no one thinks about doing this, but I'm telling you, this is extremely effective. Now, you could also get lists of these places. You can go to whatever these sites are and find lists, but this is very effective. It's a very good way to get a position that other people are not. So this person says, do you know any legal recruiter in Las Vegas or a legal recruiter besides your company that does this? I sent out, they replied, they didn't do recruiter services this time. No, that doesn't mean, of course we do recruiter services. All we would say to you is that we didn't have any positions for you that match your background. So it says, do you know a legal recruiter in Las Vegas or a legal recruiter beside your company? I sent an email to BCG and they replied to me saying your company didn't do recruiter services. That wouldn't be true. We would just say we don't have the openings for you at this time. So yes, you can, all you need to do is search for Google for legal recruiters in Las Vegas and you should be able to find someone. You could also just search for legal recruiter and go through and find all sorts of legal recruiters in the country. So there's plenty of legal recruiters that would potentially help you. What I would tell you though, to be careful with legal recruiters is legal recruiters, some of them may only work with people for big firms. That's how kind of it mostly works. Some of them may work with people for smaller firms. Some of them may only work with contract attorneys. So just finding a type of recruiter that matches what you want to do can be very effective. So let's see. Had some negative experiences with legal recruiters in the past where they seem more focused on pushing into roles around the right fit. How can I find recruiters required towards finding the right match for my skills and goals? Okay, that's a great question. I've had this morning someone that turned down a job. I didn't try to. I had yesterday someone that turned down a job, and that's a lot of fees for a recruiter. Good recruiters typically will have more than one person in the pipeline. If you're working with a lot of some recruiters, it may be they only may be able to make a couple placements a year or very few. It's important to find recruiters that aren't necessarily going to pressure you that way. We don't, but it's honestly, we don't. And because we have so many people that are pipeline at one time, so it's not like one placement's going to make and break us, but for a lot of recruiters, it is. And so you have to decide who you're working with. If someone's trying to push you into something, that means that they're scared, that they need whatever the commission. So that's not going to be helpful for you. So my recommendation to you would be that if you are going to use a recruiter, you prove the firms are sending you to, you make sure that you tell them that you have other options. And if the job's not good for you, you don't take it. You don't have to take a job that a recruiter gets for you. It's not, you're not obligated to that. You need to look out for yourself and your career. But if recruiters finding you jobs, that's good. You should go on every interview that a recruiter gets you. If you get a job offer and you don't like it, you can certainly negotiate or something along those lines, but you just need to be very careful with what you're looking at and so forth and just be very careful with a recruiter. You never have to take something that someone gets you or feel obligated to do it. If someone's making you feel that way, then you should drop. I've seen recruiters play all sorts of games. They're telling this, oh, if you're accepted by 5 today, the job's away, and just play all sorts of games with you. And that's not something that anybody really needs. So I would just be very careful. Okay, I've been unemployed for 2 years. Part of that only did contract document review since graduation. Is it still possible to network at a full-time job in some market, some practice area? Yes, of course it is. How do you do that? You just apply to a lot of places and see if you work there. You're probably going to have a difficult time getting jobs that are doing e-discovery with larger firms. It sounds like if you did contract document review, that means you probably work for mid-sized to larger firms. You need to get experience and getting experience means that you want to try probably to apply to smaller firms that could use you and give you work to do. And you need to get work to do to get trained as an attorney. And a couple of points I just wanted to bring up to everyone that I think are pretty important, and I want to share them with you, is in terms of you working, in terms of what a young attorney, what's important to a young attorney, your first 5 years of practice out of law school that are really not to make money. They're not to make as much money as you can. They're not to get rewarded with high pay and prestige. They're the most important thing you can do in 5 years. The first 5 years is the first 5 years out of law school are really are an opportunity. Are an opportunity to be trained. So that's it. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. You trained in a practice area. They're an apprenticeship. So a lot of times people get out of law school and they don't see that. They don't understand that the first 5 years of apprenticeship, because it takes about 5 years of working 2,000, 1,800 hours a year or whatever to really know how to do a practice area and get proficient. So once you do that, you'll be in much better shape and able to have tools for the rest of your career. So you did only contract document review since graduation. I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. I would recommend, if you're not getting the job, you need to use seven methods of job search. So you get a job where you need training. If you do document review in this, for what I taught here, that being mass mailing, mass mail services, there's so many private job sites, public jobs, private, I'll just say law cross, public job sites. So there's all of these different things that you can use not to find a job. So if you're able to use all of these different things, it's going to give you a opportunity to get a position in a better firm, to get trained. I don't recommend anyone, this is just a warning, you did what you did and tend to make money or whatever, but I don't recommend anyone do document review when they go to law school. You need to get trained. I don't care what it is. Now, another thing you will think is, this is a very important point. So if you are coming out of law school or you're in a position where unemployed and you think, I didn't go to a good law school, I didn't do well, I'm going to have to take whatever. No, it doesn't matter how well you did in law school. You could be the bottom of your class from a law school rank 200 out of 2. There are practice areas. If you don't think you're intelligent enough or whatever, or you didn't get good grades, you can go into personal injury law. You can go to workers' comp. You can go to insurance defense. You can go into immigration. You can go into tons of practice areas that it doesn't require that you have good grades or whatever law school. Things that basically where you're serving individuals as opposed to giant companies. That's all the differences between doing well in law school or going to a great law school as opposed to an average law school. The only difference is that it's easier to get positions serving giant corporations that have a lot more money to spend from a great law school than it is from a lower ranked law school if you didn't do well. So that's it. But you still have plenty of jobs serving people. They're all over the country. There's millions, over 1 million attorneys. And out of that, there's probably 7 that have small law firms and serving consumers. I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot. So I certainly would recommend that you do your best to find jobs facing consumers instead of doing document review. If you're doing document review, that means you're trying to serve companies, working in firms that are serving companies, which you're never going to get a real job with because of whatever it is in your background. Who the freaking cares? It's just work to get a job with someone serving consumers instead of doing the lowest possible work for companies inside of a medium-sized law firm. No, you don't need to do document review. You just need to get a job in a law firm that serves consumers. Why in the world would you want to do that? Again, if you are doing anything, I don't care where you went to law school, I don't care how long you were unemployed, there are people with their law firms that are serving consumers doing all of these different practice areas, whether it's trust in the states or immigration or personal injury, family law. I mean, family law is one. It just doesn't matter. You don't need to play these games of trying to work for big, important people and big law firms. You should be working for consumers or starting your own law firm. And there's so many of these jobs. It's just crazy. Do you have any tips for getting a law firm later in life? I've been in law and education. I'm trying to come back to that. Yes. I don't care where you are. You could do something very simple. You could say, Let's look at the U.S. map again. Here we go. So we're going to look at, let's pick another. Let's do Oregon. It'll be fun. Okay, so Oregon. Let's see you're in, let's see Eugene, Oregon. That's fun. Okay, so you say education attorneys. I'm just saying, just an education background. I don't care what you did, because education attorneys in Oregon. So here we go. Education law firms in Eugene, Oregon. The education lit a group in Eugene, Oregon. Law was a key education lawyer in Eugene, Oregon. Think about this. There's education lawyers in Eugene, Oregon. And we found a couple right there. Regardless of who you are, you should be able to find positions. And that's just for education. But if you wanted to say you're a litigator, so you could say litigation attorneys or litigation law firms. You could say litigation, I'm just meaning commercial litigation. That's the type of litigation. So commercial litigation attorneys in Eugene, Oregon. So you have some of these ads, Axiom and so forth. Then you start getting to these people, like all of these different attorneys that are ranked, which is another huge source of information. So the idea is you can look at all of these different sites and find people that do the work you want to do, and you can contact them. And it's not brain surgery. It's fairly easy. So that's how I would recommend doing research. So you can find positions regardless of how seniority are. Apply to places. The idea is you apply to places, people that aren't getting a lot of applications and would enjoy hiring you. A lot of it. My advice is to apply to mass mail, et cetera. And the reason I give you that advice is because if an employer is posting a position on a website, Indeed, et cetera, whatever, you have to be, they're going to hire the best applicant. And it's going to be difficult for you to get hired if you don't look like, if you are doing something, if you are not the best. The only way to get around that, if you've been unemployed and doing a career, you're not going to be this applicant. The person that is currently employed and doing the kind of work they do is going to stick with the legal process to be the best applicant. You need to apply to places no one else does. So this is very simple advice, but it's actually applied. It applies to everyone. It applies to every single person that's looking for a job. If you follow this advice and you apply to renewable places, then it's easier to get it. Okay, so this is a good question. So this person says, this is actually an important question. I'm a 3L. I accepted a position, Big Four accounting, but want to end up at a law firm. Is lateral from a Big Four to a law firm common, difficult, etc.? This is a very good question. I'm going to repeat it because I want to make sure that, but your question is, if you take a job, Big Four accounting firm out of law school, can you transition back into a law firm? Great question. The answer to that is, unfortunately, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, not because there's anything wrong with a Big Four accounting firm, not because there's anything wrong with the experience you get, not because a lot of smart people don't go to accounting firms. It's because anybody that takes position, with the exception of a clerkship with a judge out of law school that isn't in a law firm, isn't law firm material, because law firms train people in a different way than accounting firms do. Law firms have things where you're trained by more senior attorneys, where there's an upper out policy, where the work is done for different types of clients, where there's all sorts of differences between getting a position in an accounting firm and getting the training there, and getting a position in a law firm and getting that training. This is a very important piece of advice that I want to give everyone here. If you want to work in a law firm, this is very important for everyone. I want to make sure that everyone understands it. When I talk about law firms, I'm talking about mid-sized, organized law firms that serve businesses, sort of things. But if you want to work in a law firm, look at a law firm, mid-sized, mid to large serving businesses, whatever, large serving businesses. And you need to, what's important is you need to be coming from a law firm, or have law firm experience, So what does that mean? That means if you are a law student doing this, that means law students must work in a law firm during their second summer. I don't care if you're volunteering. I don't care if it's a large law firm, small law firm. During second summer to get you have the option of working in a law firm after graduation. Because if you don't, it's not going to, after graduation, it's going to look like you want to work wherever else it is. You want to work in a public interest or whatever the heck you did. Employers want to see that you want to work in a law firm, and they're going to hire people that have done that. If you work in someplace else, it's going to work like you didn't want to work in law. Law students must get a job in a law firm first if they want to work in law. Now you can clerk for a federal judge or something like that, or a state court judge, doesn't matter. Law firm is necessary after law school, the first job. And I want to go even further with this. If you ever go in-house, or take another type of job for law school or after working a law firm, extremely difficult to get back to. What am I saying? I may have seen real right now, this person going into an accounting firm. If you want to work in a law firm, you need to show law firms that you're interested in working for them by taking jobs in them during your summer if you're a law student, and preferably the best one you can, but it doesn't matter. If you want to work in a law firm, you have to take a position with a law firm, with the exception of working for a judge or something, or some sort of prestigious thing, but you have to take a position in a law firm after you graduate. If you want to continue working in a law firm, you don't go in-house or take positions that are related to working in a law firm after you graduate. Law firms hire people coming from law firms. Law firms hire people that stay in law firms. Because if you don't stay in a law firm, go in-house or something, the next law firm that's trying to hire you will know very easily that's what you want to do, that you want to work in-house, and I know you'll leave. If you take a position without not in a law firm as a law student after you graduate, law firms will think one of two things. They will think either you couldn't get a position in a law firm, which may or may not be true, or you preferred to go to an accounting firm as opposed to working in a law firm, and therefore you've already made your decision really in your career, which you prefer. And then in addition, you didn't get the type of training that you would normally need to stay employed to work in a law firm, because law firms train people in different ways. Law firms are an accounting firm. You may be working for one or two clients. I don't know. But if you go to a law firm, you can work on all these different types of clients, businesses or people that are paying for services. And it's just different. You're trained in a specific practice area. Now, have I gotten people from accounting firms, jobs in law firms? Yes, of course I have. But most of the time they've been in things like employee benefits or in practice areas that are things like that. So let's see. Okay, this is a good question. The person asks, why are the ratings from the Better Business Bureau negative so subpar for law firms? I wasn't aware of that, but thank you for making me aware of it. It's a paid subscription site. I think it's not very much, $25 a month, but people will join, and then sometimes they will forget to have a membership. They will be upset, or they will just use their membership and then forget to cancel, and then give bad ratings to the Better Business Bureau. Most of the time, almost all the time, when people have a complaint, so they don't want to pay, we always refund their money, but the complaints are never about quality of the site. Maybe they were, I don't know what we're looking at. They're usually about issues where they use the site and then try to get their money back, even though they use the site, things like that. That's the ones I'm aware of that I've on the site, worked on for over 25 years. So doesn't surprise me that there's some negative things. One thing I wanted to tell you too is that I appreciate bringing to my attention because they need to be fixed. One of the other things I wanted to tell you about, I'm just going to say, I forgot. Okay. This person says, on a massive paper mailing method, can you clarify, do you think it's more effective reaching out to the managing partner of the practice group, a local partner that maybe has something in common with my background, reaching out to the generic HR department, specific HR manager, or all of the above? If you do a paper mailing, typically you would want to send your letter to the person that's most likely to need your services. If you reach out to the HR department, their position is just to file it away and give it to people when they need it, or throw it away. And again, I'm not yelling that the HR department is just are overwhelmed by applications. There's no reason to keep them all sitting there. But most HR departments are not getting things in the mail. I would believe that if you're trying to work with a certain practice group, if you have experience in practice group, I really would recommend reaching out to the managing partner of the practice group. And in the office you want to work in, if you're interested in a local partner, then reaching out to someone local in your practice group possible. So that's what I would do. I don't know that you need to pepper the HR, the local, and everyone. Sometimes one isn't. You're welcome to send more than one people. Sometimes in our company, what we do is we will send the applicants to our candidates to more than one person because sometimes it's effective because sometimes but other people won't necessarily look at things. Let me try to answer this. Truth person status. Dear Mr. Barnes, another great webinar. Thank you. Background, there seems to be a lot of remote work attorney jobs these days. Due to allergy issues, I'm interested in a 100% remote job. I'm licensed in California. Furthermore, it would also be great if I can move to Nevada and look at 100% remote job for California organization, for California clients. I doubt Nevada firm will hire me to work in California clients. If any, I currently work in-house in California government. I may take the Nevada bar, but I have not moved to Nevada yet. My question, I realize that there is a trend for employers wanting attorneys back in the office 2 to 3 days a week for office cover positions. Do you think 100% remote jobs will disappear soon? If remote jobs will disappear, then getting a 100% remote job now might not actually be a good thing. Long-term solutions. Yes, there are firms now that are going to 100% remote. So what does that mean? That means you can't get jobs in remote firms. Being in California and having the bar there is a very good thing because it's a difficult bar. And there's certainly a lot of attorneys in California that can help you. If you do find a remote job, yes, you could certainly do it from Nevada or wherever you want. And I don't see a problem with that. If you work for the California government, those are actually very good jobs and you can pension and all sorts of things. So before quitting one of those jobs, I would be very careful. Just think about your options. And in terms of remote, yes, there are firms that offer you remote positions. Sometimes they will advertise it, sometimes not. But yeah, there is a trend for people going back to the office. A lot of firms want people in the office more than a couple of days a week, for example. Okay. Yeah, this is a good question and something that I missed, which I appreciate. I didn't hear any discussion of pro bono service as a working tree strategy. I know that it can be tough to add something else to the job search, but it's a great way to meet people in a low pressure environment and get a mentorship experience. Plus it shows your interest in the question. Yeah, I think pro bono can be great. The only thing I would say with that as a networking strategy is those people that are doing that may not be as interested in working for a law firm that pays money and charges money to clients than they would be doing pro bono. But it's obviously built from giant firms and things do pro bono. I do think it's a very good way. One of the things I like about pro bono, especially for people that want to do, you could do tax or trips to the States or mitigation, is that I can give you experience doing all those. In pro bono, you can go to court and do trials and all that sort of thing. So I feel like pro bono could be an excellent way for you to get different types of experience. It does show your interest for a particular practice here. I don't know how important it is for networking, but certainly getting trial or other types of experience does show your interest. So I agree that could be a really good person to ask. What are the general areas of law that relate to education I can get into? For instance, those are an area of intellectual property patents or relates to childcare education or other areas. I'm asking this so I can figure out what kind of keywords I should search when I'm asking my client. The first thing would just be education attorneys. Education law was typically, and again, I'm not an expert. There are 300 plus practice areas. So you have people suing educators. You have plaintiffs, which is varied. It could be reasonable accommodations, all these sorts of things. Issues, et cetera, which is one thing. Then you have more like advisory where advice to law. So how would you search that? I think you would just probably do a search in general for education attorneys, people that do that. That's probably the best way to find things. Understanding that what you're most likely to find are plaintiffs doing law search against educational institutions, advisory. The other thing I would say too is that you're going to have position school systems and colleges and all that sort of, that's something I would also recommend. Trying to be part, do that sort of thing, I think is something that is a good idea in terms of searching for them. But education law, There's going to be associations for it. There's just going to be all sorts of places and people that you can find. It's not that difficult. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions I can take. Okay, here's a good question this person asked. Thank you for this. This is actually a good question. I don't want to, some of these early questions people ask at the end of the webinar, things I covered, but I wanted to when I got further into it. Okay, spent years perfecting my resume and cover letter, yet I'm not seeing the results I expected. Could it be that these traditional application materials aren't as effective as I thought in the job market? Are there any alternative ways to showcase my skills and experience that might catch my attention more effectively? Okay, so here, I'll just go through some of the mistakes we make mistakes that people write. So one of them is summaries, right? Not making experience consistent, just jumping around, writing too much information on resume, saying too much, political stances, political stuff. So I mean, these are some of the mistakes. I don't think you need to spend years writing your resume and cover letter. It should be very easy to do. It's not, your cover letter doesn't matter to get a job. There's not really much you need to do. Your resume doesn't need to be perfect, but if your resume has too much information, doesn't look consistent, then it's just not going to make a lot of sense. Your resume should be abbreviated. A lot of times it's enough just to list the name of the employer. That's it. Date on some of the work you did, and that it has to look. Everything has to be consistent. Your practice areas have to be consistent. Your practice setting needs to look consistent. There's all sorts of things that can make your resume better. But anytime you submit a resume, you just have to realize that you're going to be competing with a lot of people. So what can you do to make yourself compete? If you look like you don't know what you want to do and your jobs are bouncing around, your practice areas bouncing around, your practice settings bouncing around, that's going to make it very difficult for you. All of these things are just important if you want to be able to get a job. You can't look like there's a lot that goes to your resume. Most resume services aren't going to give you the results you want because they're training you to do certain things with your resume. And if you don't have a lot of experience, there's nothing you can do. The other thing too, is if you're trying to apply to certain employers and you're only trying to apply to jobs as opposed to applying to firms without jobs, or you're competing with people that you can't compete with, then you need to do something else with the resume to help it. And I'd recommend doing that. I think that's just looking at things. Okay, let me just see. Okay, this is a good question. I'm trying to, some of these questions that people ask me, when I was at 10 minutes in, and wanted to make sure. Okay, so this question is, completed internships and gained experience, but still standing out to struggling proud of job market. Are there any unique skills for each practice law that you've seen in demand? Yes, family law. So these are things, anything that's consumer facing. Family law, very popular. Big one is trust in the states. Everyone wants trust in the states in terms of, this is always trust in the states. Immigration, just a bunch of these, immigration, workers' comp, insurance defense. All of these areas are in demand. Anything where you're helping consumers with legal problems, there's 300 plus million people in the United States. They have issues. You can, I'm trying to see here, you can help these people. So all you need to do is just find things where you're working for people. Oh, criminal law, right? All of these practice areas, you can get jobs here. Oh, personal injury, that's another one. So that is something that you can do. So my point to you is that there's plenty of practice areas. These practice areas, the attorneys are representing clients that can train you. They typically don't have a lot of money to pay you. So you won't make as much as we would train. You can open your own family law practice and make $1 million a year, charging $500 an hour if you have enough clients, which isn't too hard. You can do all sorts of things. It's not very difficult to go into a practice area that's in demand if you try to do consumer business. This actually goes, someone else said they've only worked as a contract attorney for 2 years. Anybody can go into one of these consumer facing jobs. I've had people work for me that went into these practice areas and became incredibly, meaning they just started their freaking own law firms without any help one way or another. Okay, let me answer this additional question. I think this is the last question. This is a follow-up question. P.S. With 100% remote position, thank you. Even though I currently work 100% remote, the California government won't let its in-house attorney live to another state, perhaps due to tax withholding in 2 states. Okay, that's fine. Also, I warn others that even the California government has great benefits. Appointed chief counselors are sometimes awful to work with. The latest chief, the HBO psychologist. Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, sometimes employers will see you work remotely in another state, but Nevada is 5 hours away from anywhere in Los Angeles, for example. Some ways you come to the office the next day wouldn't be difficult. That's suggesting you live. Think about it. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being on the webinar. I hope that this benefited everyone. I think this, in terms of being able to get a job, I think this is probably was one of the most important webinars you can ever hear. If you've been looking for a job, these are all methods that you can apply. I realize some of these methods, like networking, may be a little bit difficult, but at the same time, following these methods and this advice can change the whole direction of your career. So thank you everybody for being here today. And I do, again, want to commend everyone about just how smart you are for being on this webinar, how critical that it is for people that are able to learn and not just think their ego that controls everything, and to do their best to be on top of everything. I think it's very good. This kind of knowledge and stuff can change your life because it will help you. So what I like about this kind of topic and just people that show up is that what you're doing essentially is you're taking advantage of I've been doing this for 25 years and had to run businesses that need to survive. Some cases I've had almost 1,000 people working here that I needed to keep employed. And it was through these things and that I'm teaching you and learning from my mistakes and what's worked is incredibly helpful. I'm not just a business owner, but I'm someone that does nothing but recruiting, and all of this can help you if you understand it. I do want to commend everyone for being strong enough to watch these webinars and to listen to this information, because it does make a huge difference. And so many people on these webinars will contact me. I don't share this anywhere. They'll contact me and they'll say that they were able to get jobs doing this with their career, their partner, or they did this, and learning all this stuff that your peers aren't learning. The more that you learn, the better off you'll be. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. And I will see everyone next week. Thanks.